All right, we're back.
Back.
My phone is charging, or my iPad is charging. I was at 1% freaking out. Yeah, let's continue. I love what you were talking about with these relationships. That's something. What is it?
I opened beer. I did it.
Good, good. I think
happy hour with Zach.
We might have to change it. Although I think Nick May might have the market cornered on drinking, doing drinks with a person's name. I'm gonna let him have that. I don't drink either, so yeah. It's not really my thing. But I'm going to encourage everyone to come on the show to drink as much as they want because we want to get honest answers. But this has been amazing. Again, I really appreciate your just being here and like being this open. I want to keep talking about what we were just talking about though, because it is one of the most important things in my life and in my career and something I think about a lot. And it is just like the humanness and the, how we change and, you know, how we get better. So the stuff that you were just talking about is awesome. I would imagine you're a reader. Do you read a lot?
I do read. Not as much as I used to. I've converted to audio books.
That's how I consume my books as well.
Because you can listen to them in the car. I can do it when I'm going around. I don't have to just sit and read. But some things are just nice to sit and read. I have a ton of books actually in here because I like to sit and highlight things and go back and look at what resonated with me maybe a year or two ago and see if it still sticks. So that part's fun, and you can't highlight Audible. So
that is, it's annoying. I'm a very slow reader. So Audible, I learn auditory really well. So Audible is like, it's my good friend. I listen to a lot of books that way.
Yeah. Yeah. It's nice. It's convenient. I like how you can kind of speed it up a little bit too, if you want.
I've never been able to do that. It drives me crazy to hear it sped up, but I know a lot of people do.
Well, we don't do it like Chickman style. It's just a little faster.
I know. I've tried it a couple times. I drive a lot, so I'm able to consume books fairly quickly.
What's a book that you're reading right now? I don't have one I'm listening to right now. I was just thinking the other day I'm not listening to one.
I am listening to The Ego is the Enemy. I'm listening to, let's see, I'm going to pull up my Audible. So that's the thing about Audible, because you don't go to look at the book all the time. Mm-hmm. I never remember authors' names, and half the time I can't tell you the name of the book I'm reading. I'm reading The Lean Startup. Never Split the Difference. That's a book that I'm a little over halfway through.
Never Split the Difference. I'm gonna write that one down.
It's a negotiation book.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's been amazing. It's an FBI ex-FBI negotiator who like found out, I'm not sure exactly how, but he sort of was being brought into like, Harvard Business School to like sit in on these like negotiation lectures, and he was like, this is amateur stuff. Like the FBI has like a far better, more researched, more effective way of doing things.
Right. That's what we were talking about earlier with confidence. So why do we think that those approaches should be any different to what we do? Because we effectively are salespeople, whether we're residential, like even though I have a much more defined outline in a bidding process, right? I'm still selling a job. I may or may not get it. So we're still salespeople at the end of it. So it's just fascinating because it's just understanding what people want, their psyche. It goes back to when I said at a high level, it's being able to influence and persuade. If you can nail that within your own style and what you're comfortable with, you will be able to sell whatever you want in paint.
And I love that. What you said about confidence is something I've said to people before who ask about that. And I think I was not always a confident person at all. But I think I'm pretty confident now. And it's because I did the work. Like I know I know what I'm talking about, and I try to be very careful to not talk about things I don't know what I'm talking about. But I've done the work, I've done the homework, and I'm very comfortable saying I don't know, and hey, let me go do some homework, and I'll get back to you. But I think that people who struggle with confidence, that advice that you mentioned earlier of like studying the data sheets and like studying whatever it is that you're doing and knowing it really well is a great way to build confidence.
Right. Because Zach, if I was to come to you and say, I have a steel I-beam that is rusting, that's going through inside my house, and I want it primed with a zinc primer, and I want a high performance coating on it that's going to work. You know, I want a 3 system. What are you going to say?
That is, first of all, that is not something we've ever done before.
I know, that's why I'm asking you.
And that's the first thing I would tell them. Like, hey, I've never done this, but I can follow specs and I can apply coatings. So I'm going to call my rep. I'm going to describe what we have to do. I'm going to find out what the data sheets say, and I'm going to get back to you with how this is going to happen.
Right.
And then I'll start calling people like you and my Sherwin-Williams rep, and Jay Woodslack on here. He was just on here. He's a Sherwin-Williams rep. And I'd start doing homework.
Yeah. My favorite question is when other painting contractors ask me what my favorite system is or what's my go-to system. And I can't tell if they're trying to challenge me if I really know my systems or if they really care about what my favorite system is.
Oh, I bet you get that all the time.
Not as much as I do.
Yeah, maybe not anymore because people know you.
Yeah.
But I think if somebody popped into this live right now and had no idea who you were and heard you talking about paint specs to the level of knowledge that you have, they might be slightly surprised.
Yeah. My favorite system for everyone who I know is so curious is for exterior steel. I love Sherwin-Williams Macro Epoxy 646. Although you can't use a top coat because it gets chalky. And so you usually top coat it with an Acrylon, and it's a high solids 218, which recently in Colorado with the silly VOC laws that passed, they don't allow us to have anymore. So I switched to Acrylon 100, which is a water-based urethane.
I think I've used that system actually on that. We sandblasted a steel deck and I lost my shirt on it. I didn't know how to sandblast. Yeah. I used like 50 times more sand than you're supposed to. We had the wrong nozzle on. But we used the macro epoxy in that Acrylon. And
you would usually come shop primed with like a zinc oxide, or you could just do like a pro curl. But my go-to system always in commercial for any high performance system that holds up really well was the Macro 646 and Acrylon 218.
I love it.
Love it.
Can you explain to me what I know what it is because I've seen pictures when people talk about it, but what is a tilt up and why do they call them tilt ups?
So a tilt up, that's a good question. I guess I never thought about it for someone who doesn't know. Tilt up is short for a concrete tilt up, and it's the way that the building is built. So I'm not sure, one of the Amazons was, and the other one, the sheets were kind of trucked in. But so what they do is they put the form liners down on the ground, okay? And they fill them with concrete and they cure and they tilt them up, the panel, okay? And then they secure it upright. And then they go to the next panel and they tilt it up. And so the whole building is a concrete tilt up building where the panels were formed and tilted up and then put together. And then and so it's warehouse, right? It's where there's a lot of, that's what Amazon was. And then once it's tilt up and everything's cured, now you've got to do the the control joints and seal it and make sure it's all, and then put the roof on. And then once we go and power wash it and everything's cured, that's when we go and we install coatings. And so either you're going to have a smooth coating or an elastomeric coating, which has that like kind of give, expansion give, which isn't super necessary all the time in Colorado. Or what we specialize in and why we do so much, I think we're doing roughly 2.5 million in concrete tilt-ups right now, is we do textured coating. So it takes a huge compressor. You can use either a Graco 1030 that has the the flow control, the new ones, or the newest one is the Graco 2030, right? So huge compressor, huge hose. It's basically a heavy duty paint that has aggregate in it or silica. They used to put sand in it and it would splatter up on these concrete walls and it looks like stucco almost. It's got that like textured finish. And so the sand would hit the building and come back at you, or it was just really heavy to spray. And so since then, they've started to put a lighter like silica in the paint. So when it splatters, it's almost like a silicone and it'll stick. And then you have medium texture, large texture. And so you're basically finishing this concrete tilt-up building that's a smooth, ugly gray concrete to kind of look like stucco, but it's much more durable.
Wow. So it's a paint and a texture in one.
Yes. Yep.
Have you seen, I'm sure you know the guys from Jack and they're...
Oh gosh, Matt Palmisiano and Adam, of course.
I'm going to have to get them on. I've seen them posting some videos. They build contraptions.
Well, I've tried to get one of those robots for the last 5 years. So Adam, if you're watching, I want one. They're not, Adam builds them. So yeah, Adam's like this mechanical guru. Matt was an ex-fighter pilot, and they thought there has to be an easier way to do this. So, they had a lift, they built this robot, and it's up on like a man lift, and it sprays up. And so they have a mini, and then they have a large one. And the rollers they had custom made are like, I think 6 feet long or something. And so they're playing with textured coatings, but they do it with smooth all the time. And you have to have them on. It's something silly, like they can do an entire gymnasium like in an hour with one guy driving.
I saw it. It is nuts.
I want one. I keep telling those guys, and I told Adam, I said, I'm going to be the first guinea pig that gets to use one outside of this, because we do so many tilt-ups and they know that. But yeah, it's amazing. Adam patented and created that thing from scratch. He's just a brainiac. It's absolutely amazing.
On that, do you guys end up having to create special equipment to do what you do, or there's pretty much equipment kind of already out there for you?
There's pretty much equipment already out there for us, especially the long kind of dual head, spraying different things that have come out. No, the only one that I want to get my hands on is Adam's robots, and he knows it. They know it too.
I'm going to have to get him on here, because I think I met him at PCA Expo last year.
Yep, they were last year. Matt is the chair of the education committee, and great guys. They do a very, very similar work in terms of the concrete tilt-ups that we do. I've talked to a few of his superintendents. My superintendent went and visited their shop in last November and got a tour. They're multi-state now, and so yeah, it's a really cool setup. Really cool setup. Very similar to what we do on the light industrial side. So we talk with them a lot.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So you need to get them on, and then I'm going to get on there and comment that I want the robot.
I would imagine they're making so much money with their robot, they don't have any interest in selling it.
No, and you'd have to think, obviously Adam patented it. They have several mini. There's one that's called the mini, and then the mega, which has got the big roller. I think it's efficient with the smooth and priming the building, but when you come back, and then final coating, but when you come back and you have to do the accent panels, I asked Matt last time I saw him about the textured, because it's such a heavy, product. Those are the things that they're still fine tuning, but yeah, instead of it being, having a ground guy, having a lift driver, a spray guy, and minimum needing a crew of 3 or 4, they have like one guy who pours the paint in, drives the robot. It's just, I would cut 2 or 3 painters on every tilt up. It would be amazing. Because then I could allocate them to the finish coat and they would just be following.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that idea of the innovation. There's a large company that from Michigan, I think, that does they win a bunch of the bids in my area for underneath the bridges.
Yeah.
They're called that Salas Brothers, and they have these tractor trailers that they've clearly I went to their website actually. They custom built them.
Right.
And there's a tractor trailer, and then it lifts up, has all the compressors and the air recovery and everything underneath.
Mm-hmm.
And then it lifts up and goes to the underneath of the overpass. They don't have to build all the scaffolding underneath the overpass. They just literally just like drive underneath with 3 of them, lift these things up, and they're working, like, I would imagine, real quickly.
Real quickly, so it becomes cost effective. Yeah, I mean, Adam created these. I feel like he created the idea, he saw like the asphalt stripers, right? Those machines that drive around with asphalt. And he thought, well, why can't I do this on a vertical surface? And just kind of flipped it, which is ingenious. I've considered creating something and asking him for tips just to see, but because we are doing so many of them, and you have to have, again, special crews that are allocated that know the exterior substrates of a tilt-up. Those crews are very different than my interior production guys.
I bet.
Yeah. Yeah. So.
Well, yeah. I know that you're a busy person. While we're talking about influence, I'm going to encourage or hope that you will take somebody and make them start producing more Instagram content. Because it's like, for you to go do it, it's crazy. But if you had somebody that was documenting these projects all the time, I mean, the amount of content, the gold content that you have is unbelievable.
You are so right. You're so right.
And I say it to a lot of people. Chris Polidoro was on. He runs a big, super high-end paint company in Connecticut. Mm-hmm. He did a $1.1 million residential paint job on a new construction. Like, they do crazy stuff. And I'm like, Chris, you guys are constantly, they have like 80 painters. You're constantly creating gold. And you're not, like, you're the one who's recording stuff every once in a while. I know that people like think it's a leap. They're like, when am I going to get anything out of Instagram? But I would love to see more videos of you guys like applying that product that you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. There are some, I think, that are on there. But I will take you up on that because I know that you've built a big business around it. So there's definitely value in it. I agree.
There is. Your clients get to watch. If nobody else, your clients get to watch the behind the scenes stuff, right? It's cool. People like to be able to remotely see their project going.
Right. Right.
And to be able to show expertise is another, that's, I think, a big part of our success is just being able to like demonstrate that we know what we're doing. Mm-hmm. And demonstrate. It was great for us because we're a new company, like I'm young and we're growing into the higher and higher ends, to just show consistency. You know, it's helped us to build trust a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I see it, I watch it, I appreciate it. The consistency is good. It validates a lot, and it's good. Content value is a lot these days. Like I was saying, to be able to see it and then follow it up with in meetings or meeting these people, like that's where you probably close the deal right there then, huh?
Yeah. It just gives you that little bit of credibility.
Yes.
I DM'd a builder today, sort of out of the blue, that, you know, one of my clients was telling me that he just sold an $8.5 million property to this other, he's a real estate agent, and just sold this $8.5 million house, and they're going to be doing big renovations. And I was like, well, who's a GC? I was like, all right, I've never heard of that guy. Let me send him a DM on Instagram, and maybe we can start to develop that relationship.
Right.
And if I had been posting like every couple weeks some bizarre shots that didn't really show what we were up to, it's not going to do the same thing as like I try to just document what we're up to on a regular basis. And do it consistently.
It's because you're building that rapport with your viewers and your followers and clients. So you're indirectly building that rapport.
Yeah.
That's obviously very valuable because we discussed it earlier. That's what closes deals.
Yeah.
Is that persuasion?
There's no question. My client today actually was like, they watched my stuff. They found me through Instagram. Amazing property, amazing clients. And he was like, I'm just glad to see you. So I had to do the power washing today with one of my apprentices because I just didn't have the manpower. So I was power washing all day. He was busting my balls like, oh, it's good to see you actually sweating out here and not just like recording videos and talking to people. But it's great, like developing, like we talked about, I'm trying to not just be a piece of paper.
Right.
So this is just one more tool in not being a piece of paper that I think is very powerful.
That key phrase that we said earlier is influence is energy. And if you can influence and persuade people, and by doing that, building that rapport and trust, like that's where your success comes from. Really in anything, but especially as a painter, because people are trusting you with their houses. Me, it's a little bit less emotional because they're office spaces, but in some cases there are. I just posted a shared workspace today that the architect and the owners were very invested. It was a small project that they wanted it to be absolutely perfect. So it just depends. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So we have a few, I don't want to take up too much of your time, but we have a few standard ZK Live questions.
Okay.
One of them we've kind of already gone over, which is business advice. But there's always the fun ones are still to come. One of them is, do you have a DIY painting tip? Because we talk about all this like nerdy, detailed paint stuff. How about for a do-it-yourselfer? What's a tip or two that you have for someone who's going to try to do their own painting?
Their own painting. My nerdy DIY painting tip would be to never trust the tape that you're using and always caulk your transition lines either at the base or a change when you have accent colors so that it doesn't bleed through to the wall.
Awesome. Can you, while we're there, can you tell, you guys do a lot of accent wall stuff in commercial, right?
Yeah.
What's the secret? What's all that? What goes into that? We don't do very many. I wouldn't say we do very many accent walls, and we definitely don't do very many like stripes or like stops in the middle of a wall kind of thing. How do you guys go about that?
So we use pretty much any of the standard like orange core tapes or anything that's a higher quality that's not going to rip off your paint. So once your paint's up, the whole room is gray, and then we've got a blue accent wall. We're going to tape, usually depending on if the base is on or not, we'll say it is, we tape the base and then the transition lines, either an inside, outside. And then we use painter's caulk in the pocket and we just wipe it. And then we paint the two coats, pull it, and it gives you a nice line without the paint bleeding through. And we can't use frog tape or things like that that are, moisture activated or some of those ones, because when we're doing 100 offices, the cost in material and just the tapes is just silly. So you've got to have better tricks that give you the final product where your lines are crisp and straight. And so it works well for do-it-yourselfers too. After you tape it, as long as even if you're using frog tape, but any type of tape, use a paintable caulk, like a latex caulk. You let it dry, and then you paint whatever dark coat, you peel it, and it gives you that nice defined line.
That's awesome. That's a great tip. Man, I blank on the ZK questions sometimes.
You should have in front of you, Zach.
I know, I rushed here. I have them actually. So I used to do these from my phone. When I'm at the shop, I do them from my phone on a tripod. Yeah. And then I look at my iPad, which has all my notes on it. Okay. When I do them from home, I need to get a tripod here because my iPad with all my notes is what I'm actually looking at. Yeah, so the favorite question, this is the question that we always end with. I want it because we talk about like all the best, like you're an impressive person, you're an impressive company. You've given us a bunch of awesome like information. But now we want to like humanize you. We want to be like society and pull you back down. What's the most embarrassing, like worst thing that's ever happened from SPI? Like what's the worst horror story of a project? Nick Slavic, I tell everyone this because it's insane, and Nick well, so you'll like this even more.
I do. Yep.
Nick blew us all away and opened up dramatically and told us that when he first started out, he was doing side work. He was on a extension ladder in someone's living room. He spilled paint on a rug, and he couldn't get the paint out of the rug using the standard practices that we always all try to do. And he actually ended up moving a chair over the top of that section of rug, collecting the check and leaving. And it's haunted him ever since.
Did he tell you? Oh, did they ever call him?
No.
Oh my gosh.
But it's haunted him ever since. And we both know the kind of stand-up guy that Nick Slavic is.
Yes, we do.
So that's what makes that story even more special. We've heard about people getting overspray on hundreds of cars. We've heard a number of pretty good horror stories. I painted the wrong house.
Oh gosh, I feel like you told me that. Yeah, so mine, I would say, and it was on my project at the University of Colorado in Boulder. We were spraying a black high performance coating. It was at Acrolon. We were doing a huge trellis on the underground parking garage at the new community building. And the way Boulder is, the wind kind of came up and my guys stopped painting immediately, but this coating, it just floated up in the air and kind of went over and dropped, right? And so we did effectively overspray 260 cars on campus. But here's the funny thing. Nobody knew it, including us. Life is good, we go away. 2 weeks later, we get a phone call that somebody came into the main office complaining, who are the painters on site? We have overspray in our car. So you couldn't see it to your naked eye on your car or your windshield. But if you put your hand and rubbed it, it felt like a sandpaper grit, right? What had happened was the next week, a rainstorm started in Boulder. And when people were trying to use their windshield wipers, they were getting chewed up because of all of the high performance coating on their windshields was like sandpaper, and it was chewing up their windshield wipers. And so this guy took his car, his Audi, into the dealership and said, my windshield wipers aren't working. What is going on? I can't see anything. And so the guys at the dealership took it off and felt his windshield and said, your car's been oversprayed. It's chewing up. It's literally chewing up the windshield wiper, all the plastic every time it goes across it. And it doesn't have that smooth surface to clear the windshield. So everybody's windshields were all like, nasty. So he goes in, complains. Well, then all of a sudden we had somebody go out and look, and we inspected it. And in fact, from the naked eye, you couldn't see a coating. There was no paint drops. It was this very, very fine mist of a high performance coating we coated 260 cars with. It was black, chewed up, and I had to have insurance disaster relief control, set up tents, cleaning and buffing everybody's cars and replacing their windshield wipers that we actually could attribute worse from us. Because we had people, there was signage posted at the universities that were trying to get free car details. But we had to buff out, including the chancellor of CU Boulder's Audi, who we had to, but it was one of the most nerve-wracking, embarrassing. Our guys stopped immediately, and literally for 2 weeks, no one knew. And if this one person hadn't gone and taken his car because his windshield wipers were chewed up, we don't know if we ever would have known.
That is amazing. Thank you for that.
Yes.
I'm sorry that happened.
Yeah.
Generally, everyone tells us stories that are old enough now that we can laugh at them. I'm sorry I'm laughing at it.
This was many years ago. Thank God for insurance. So.
Do you know how they were able to deal with it? Were they able to buff it off?
They were able to buff it off. There was only, I think, a couple cars that required a special recoating or something of the clear coat that they had paid to have on the front or something like that. But for the most part, no, the insurance company literally brought in disaster relief teams that buff out. And so they were able to get it off the windshield, clean it off the wipers or replace the wipers, and then buff out the car. Because you couldn't see it on the cars, even on white cars, it was so fine, you could only feel it. If you looked at certain angles with the glare of the sun, you could kind of see. But that was what was crazy. To the naked eye, no one would ever know. It was the finish on the cars. And so, yeah, buffing it out and everything. We probably had a month and a half of complete just day in and day out buffing a car.
It's unbelievable. And thank God for insurance. I didn't get to ask you, what type of liability, what type of insurance do you have to do the kind of work you did? I mean to ask that.
We have just I think it's a $5 million general liability umbrella. And then we recently had to get like pollution insurance or something because of VOC's emitting. But now that the VOC laws have changed, I don't know if we have to keep that. And then just high level of workman's comp. So nothing crazy. I think just the amounts in which you insure are higher.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah.
I really appreciate you coming on.
Yeah.
It was awesome to get your take on all of this stuff, for people to be able to hear what it's like. Everybody should go follow SPI, but isn't it Shamrock Painting on Instagram?
It is. It's just Shamrock Painting.
Shamrock Painting on Instagram. Everybody send Gina DMs. We want to see more content out of you guys.
I will make that promise to you.
Awesome.
I'll have to get one of my little millennials to do it.
There are a bunch of interns that are dying to get that kind of experience. I have 2 interns right now working on our social media stuff. And it's great work experience. You're giving a lot of value to them. So.
Yeah, that's good advice. I'll have to circle back with you, Zach. Thank you.
There's an app called Pangea that we use to find them.
Pangea?
Yeah.
That's my favorite coffee place here, so I like it already.
Yeah, I think you'll like it. We've been able to find some really talented, awesome young people.
Great. Well, thank you. This was fun to connect.
Yeah. Thanks for coming on.
I'll connect with you on Friday.
Awesome.
All right. Have a good night.
You too.
Bye.
Bye. All right. That was an awesome conversation. I'm glad you guys were all here to hear that. Gina is obviously a very impressive person. You don't take a $3 million company to $11 million without knowing what you're doing. Hey, buddy, send me a DM. Whoever's talking about getting a job, send me a DM. If you want a job, that's the best way to do it. If you guys want to ever connect, if you want to ask questions, send me a DM. Please don't just like ask questions in a way. If I've never spoken to you, don't just like ask me what sprayer, what tip, what thinning, and that's it. Like, at least just be like, hello, and then say all that stuff. But I do appreciate all the feedback. This episode and all of the other episodes are on YouTube. They're also on Spotify if you want to listen to them. They're also on iTunes, Apple iTunes. It's all under ZK Live. So if you search, I believe if you search Apple iTunes, you will find ZK Live. I know if you search Spotify, you'll find all these podcasts, all of these interviews in podcast form. And I think we have 2 more left to get up on ZK Live on YouTube. So if you could do me a favor and please go follow, like, share, all that stuff. I'm working really hard to add as much value to everybody as I possibly can. What's up, Dan? We got to connect soon. We might have 2 Dans in the shop one day. That'd be awesome. Yeah, it's the more that you can give me feedback. What do you want to hear? Who do you want to hear on here? What can I do better? I'm struggling to not drink seltzer during these things. I get tired. I'm hot. I keep drinking the seltzer. I'm trying not to burp. I apologize to everybody. I think we're bringing a lot of value. There's a lot of really knowledgeable people who have been on and will continue to be on. I may continue to do the Sunday evening ones just by myself. There was a lot of positive feedback from that. But again, send me messages, like, share, all that stuff on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple iTunes. Thanks, guys.